If you manage people, you know the drill. Missed deadlines, teams that just seem unmotivated, and that feeling that you're the one pulling all the weight. Well, today we're diving into How to Be a Great Boss by Gino Wickman and Renee Boker. It's a book that lays out a super straightforward game plan to turn all those frustrations into some serious wins.
But first, let's start with a really uncomfortable question. I want you to think about your team for a second. What if more than half of them have already mentally checked out? They're physically there, but they're just going through the motions. It's a huge, huge problem that's often hiding in plain sight.
The authors call this exactly what it is, an engagement crisis. And this isn't just about a couple of unhappy employees here and there. Nope. It's a systemic issue that is quietly sucking the life right out of a company. And if you don't believe me, let's look at the cold, hard data from Gallup. Only about 31.5% of employees are what you'd call engaged. These are your stars, the ones who bring energy, solve problems, and really push the business forward. But then you've got this massive 51% who are not engaged. They're the ones doing just enough not to get noticed.
And the cost of that huge group just flying under the radar? Get this, it's estimated to be around $500 billion in lost productivity every single year, and that's just in the US. That is a staggering amount of wasted human potential.
But here's the part that should really keep you up at night. That last 17.5%, they're labeled actively disengaged. Now, according to the book, these aren't just people mailing it in. They are actively miserable, and they're spreading that poison to others. They might even be working to undermine the success you're trying to build.
So you have to ask, what's the real cause of this crisis? Where does this all come from?
Well, the book argues that all roads lead back to one person, the boss. The single biggest factor in whether an employee is engaged or not is their direct manager.
And this quote just nails it. You might be frustrated, sure, but your people are everything. Think about it. Your competitors can copy your products, your services, your strategy, but the one thing they can never, ever copy is a highly engaged, high-performing team. Your people are the only real advantage you have.
And this disconnect, it's not just a vibe, it's a total breakdown in communication. Look at this Harris poll data. Almost 40% of employees have no idea what their company's goals even are. And even worse, 44% don't get how their job, what they do every single day, actually contributes to those goals. That is a massive failure of leadership, plain and simple.
So what it all boils down to is this. The boss is the architect. You're the one creating the environment. And you're either building a place where people can thrive and do their best work, or you're creating the very conditions that make them want to check out. There's really no middle ground.
Okay, so how do we start to fix this? Well, a huge piece of the puzzle is a shift in mindset, and it starts with reclaiming the title of boss. It's kind of become a dirty word, right? We say leader or manager, but the book argues that we need to embrace being the boss.
And it's funny, the word actually comes from the Dutch baas, which was a term of respect for the captain of a ship, the person in charge. The idea is to wear that title with pride, not with arrogance, but with a pride that's rooted in being responsible for your people and for their success.
All right, so the book throws this famous George Carlin quote at you. It's a pretty cynical joke, right? But your gut reaction to it says a whole lot about your mindset as a boss. So, which is it? The not-so-great boss laughs, nods along, and immediately blames the employees. They're thinking, yep, that's my team. Good help is so hard to find. But the great boss? They might chuckle, but they instantly recognize that if that joke is true in their company, it's a leadership problem. They think, my people make me better, and it's my job to inspire them to do more than just get by.
And that right there, that's the fork in the road. It's the difference between pointing fingers and taking ownership. Great bosses don't blame their people. They take on the full responsibility for creating an environment where their people can be successful.
So, let's say you're on board. You're ready to take that responsibility. The next question is, what do you actually do? Well, the good news is the book provides a super practical, proven game plan, a real toolkit for greatness.
And this isn't some vague, high-level theory. It's a set of concrete tools. It's about learning how to delegate work the right way so you can empower your team and focus on what's most important. It's about making sure you have the right people in the right roles. It's about mastering 5 key leadership practices, like showing the way, and 5 key management practices, like keeping things on track. And it's all held together by communicating powerfully and consistently.
But, and this is a really important but, the authors give a critical warning. The tools themselves are simple. They make sense, they're not complicated, but doing them day in and day out, that's not easy.
It takes real discipline and a true commitment to change.
And that really brings us to the final critical question that this whole explainer is about: recognizing the problem and deciding to take ownership. That's step one. Bad bosses make excuses. Great bosses rise to the challenge. So the only question left is, which boss are you going to be?